station along the China-Laos Railway, it is also home to Pu'er Tea, and Kuli Township used to be the one town for Pu'er Tea, and the culture of tea and horse is unique here. What is it about this culture and how to make Pu'er Tea? Let's listen to the story. And in Nali Township, there are many relics from the ancient tea horse road. And also, we have invited many experts and scholars to introduce the history of Pu'er Tea and some local culture and customs. So now let's walk into this township. And first of all, please enjoy one video about the Pu'er ecology. People's attention was attracted. We are arriving at the Taiyanghe Forest Park. We are accompanied by many rare animals, and we enjoy the biodiversity of Pu'er. One of the big names of the city is National Forest City. So in this forestry city, it enjoys premium ecological environment. And Pu'er is the biggest oasis in the northern hemisphere. The forest coverage is 75%. Speaking of the forest stock volume and area, it's ranking number 1 in the city. And it is home to 1,490 animal species. It is said as the gene bank. And this is the miniature of biodiversity in Yunan province. It is also the only one of the country to have the national level green demonstration area. Welcome back. Here we are in front of a stone tablet. This is a map on the stone tablet, and that's the ancient tea horse road. The source place is Pu'er Mansion. It's located in Ning'er County. It may lead to Beijing or Lhasa, or Laos and Myanmar, or even leading towards Vietnam and other ASEAN countries through Hong Kong. So why do we call it Tea Horse Road? Today we have invited Madame Tao from the County Level Culture and Tourism Bureau. So, Madame Tang, could you please introduce about the source and history of this road? This is the macro ancient tea horse road. As is introduced, there are 5 different roads spanning from the center. We call all of those 5 as tea horse roads because horses used to be the main transportation modes in ancient times for the civilians. And on those roads, we transported tea and salt mostly. But in ancient Pu'er Mansion, we exported the tea and the salt outward, and we also introduced back silk and others. And there used to be some natural roads in the same region. In Qing Dynasty, those roads were very popular, and gradually, before the founding of New China, they were left behind. And now, because of the ecological development, those ancient tea horse roads were revived. So Nali Village is one important station along the road. It's booming and thriving were all along with the history of the tea horse road. According to my knowledge, tea was produced in southern China, and horses were mainly grown in northern China. Horses used to be an important military material or production elements. So horses were taken as an exchange product with the tea in southern China. So the trade of horses and tea used to be very important for traders. Could you please introduce more? In Tang Dynasty, horses used to be an important production material. We exchange tea for horses, as you have seen on the map. On Northeastern Road and Southwestern Road, the locals living around eat a lot of Pu'er tea, and Pu'er tea is composed of a lot of vitamins, so it's very popular, and there is a huge demand of tea. So in Tang Dynasty, we exchange horses with the tea, and I heard that when you use tea to exchange for horses, you also classified the horses into 3 different levels. And there was such a stone for horse riding. That stone was set as the testing field for the quality of the horses. Now let's move on to have a look. And I do want to ask that was it true that the horses used to be tested with that stone? Since this is one of the stations along the Tea Horse Road, there were a lot of folk stories. And we used to talk about Nali Township. And according to the history, there used to be such a stone in the broad space. And people used to say that it is commonplace to encounter a good horse, but it is uncommon to encounter a good trainer. So we will allow the horses to jump over the stone. If it can manage it, it's high quality. If not, it's low quality. And there are 3 levels of horses. One can carry 2 people while jumping over it. And for the intermediate level, it can carry only 1 person on its back while jumping over the stone, while the lowest quality horse can only jump by itself, carrying no one on its back. So in our camera, we can already see the stone in the distance. Between the 2 big stones, there is a quite wide gap. With my naked eyes, I sense it's about 10 meters distance between the 2 stones. Right? No, it's actually 6 meters. A good horse can carry 2 people to jump over the stone to reach another 1 stone that's 6 meters distance. It sounds impossible. Why do we have such a weight requirement? Since in ancient days, the horses had to carry salt and tea, and the tea used to be made in the form of pie, so it has some weight. On a horse, it has to carry about 60 kilograms on its back while trading the tea. That's almost the weight of an adult person. In addition, the horses also have to carry a lot of even weapons and some kitchenwares like pots. So one horse had to carry over 60 kilograms on its back while on the road. So it's huge pressure on the horse. That's why we have such a weight requirement for the tea horses. If the horses can jump over the 2 stones, it will be the leading horses in the fleet. And I heard that there used to be a concentration of horses on the plaza. Yes, Mabangli is the pronunciation of horses in the local language. Nali is home to a lot of irrigated farmland and river. Nali has a good meaning, referring to good bridges and water environment. So the horses taken here are highly followed. If they have to tread through the rivers, it's easy for them to fall down. So in Nali Village, there are a lot of bridges built for the horses specifically. And now let's show you what's the real tea horse road looking like. Let's move aside to have a look. This is the stone pavement. The tea horse riders got along very well with the locals because through those riders and traders, the locals got benefits from them. And also the horse riders respect locals. This is the story about their relationship. When they heard the treading sounds of the horses, the locals are expecting them, whatever they are doing, like farming or cooking, once they hear the sound, they know that the horse traders are here. This is one of the ancient roads. There are 5 directions of the roads: northeastern, southwestern, southern, and southwestern, and so on. This is the southern lane. It's in the southern part of the ancient Pu'er Mission. According to the record, it was built in the years of Daoguang Emperor. It was constructed for 30 years. It's quite broad from the entrance. That's beneficial for the horses to mount on the mountain. But when it's on the hill, that's about 1.6 meters to 2 meters width at the top of the hill. And in the widest opening, the road is about the width of 2 horses, and at the narrowest distance, the width is about the size of 1 horse. And all ethnicities in this locality relied on this pathway for political, economical, cultural, and business trade. Even though now the tea horse road is no longer the main transportation mode or means, there is still huge connection between different ethnicities through those ancient roads. I do want to experience this ancient tea horse road, so am I allowed to walk on it? Sure. This ancient tea horse is the national level key cultural relics. It's really my honor to step on it. It's a winding road. If you lead a horse and carry heavy goods on the road, it's not an easy job. It's tiresome. How many kilometers can the horses walk per day? 15 to 20 kilometers per day. I see. So the horse caravan used to choose the townships along the roads to settle down at night because they get medicines and supplements in those townships. And Nali is one of the stations for the caravans. Now, with the modern village tourism development, it becomes a featured township in Yunan province. So this Nali village used to be such an ancient post for the horses and the caravans. Now let's visit a guest house, which used to be the hotels for the caravans. But the different thing is, ancient times usually have a classification between the hotels for people and hotels for horses. Sorry to interrupt. I see a workshop making pottery, and this is Master Kang. Mr. Kang's previous generations used to be the craftsmen who produced the clay potteries. They make a lot of daily necessities like the wine containers. But at Mr. Kang's generation, he made more detailized products and they are more delicate. Those pots are used to make some pickled food. Now it's made smaller than before. It's more delicate. You could put in it some of the very small product. For example, the toothpicks, and it's sold at 30 RMB yuan, just the same price as before. But the thing is, for the big potters, you could make like only 10 of them in one stove. But now, when the products are made smaller, you could produce 100 smaller pots in one stove. And also, this is intelligible cultural heritage. He has very flexible and nimble hands. And you still have to polish them? Yes. Those are ready-made. Some of them may require further enamel, some not. And also those pots could be used to grow the lotuses. Such ancient craftsmanship is still developing along with Nali Village. The traditional skills are inherited, and the inheritors' financial background is now guaranteed, and those intelligible cultural products are now presented to people worldwide. Thank you, Mr. Kang. Nali Township is very green. This tree is an ancient silver birch. Imagine that in April there are white flowers blossoming on the silver birches. Your husband is holding a bamboo pole, clicking on the tree, and the white flowers are falling down gently. The minority ethnic groups are holding those white flowers under the trees and cook food later on with it, together with the meat. So these birch flowers are natural food. So people say that in springtime we could eat flowers, and in summer we eat fungus. In autumn and winter we eat all sorts of worms. They are nutritious and delicious. And this is one of the guest houses. You could look at the couplet. It says that who should be the dominant spectators of the mountainous scenery, and it could be dated back to Qing dynasty, when official was assigned for the tea monitoring business here. And the second half of the couplet reads that since we just met, you are welcome here in the guest house. But that official insisted on walking on his way. But it was dark outside, and the owner of the guest house said that I would love to receive you as my guest, even though it's our first meeting. There was an ancient poem called Guanshan Yue. I'm not sure if it's the same classical story. This is a guest house for people and horses. You might be wondering, why can a hotel be able to accommodate both people and horses? As a natural village, not every one household is able to receive the caravans. Some can only accommodate people, some can only accommodate horses because of their larger sizes of the farm fields. So for those guest houses big enough to accommodate both people and the horses, that's the demonstration of their capabilities. It's like a five-star hotel. Only big caravans can live in such a guest house. This courtyard seems peaceful and simple, but there are so many touching stories happening here. Some leaders of the caravans used to negotiate to keep businesses, and on the stone tablet, there are some engraved chessboards. Now let's zoom in to look at the chessboard. They had a lot of entertainment here. That's the footprint of the caravans. In 2008, you could find some more interesting scenarios. There are two trees. One is the pomegranate trees, and the other is the olive trees. The pomegranate tree is a representative of unity, and the olive tree represents the spirit of the caravans. That's symbolic of the caravans' courageous spirit. So the owner planted two trees together to represent their firm decision to walk shoulder by shoulder with the caravans. And also the olives are very delicious. There is a sculpture here. This is the sink. People tend to believe that horses don't have any requirements for drinking water. Actually, horses are important treasures for the caravans. So all the drinking water by the horses will be checked so as to guarantee clean drinking water for the horses. Now let's move on. This old nanny is the current owner of this guest house, right? Yes. Nice to meet you. What's the interest point of the customers here? They're very interested in my house. Thank you. We are about to walk on the bridge. It's a local architecture milestone. For the Fengyu Bridge, it's a cultural exchange example of the caravans. This bridge used to be a very simple stone bridge or bamboo bridge, but the caravans brought to us the culture of corridors from southern China to our local ethnic regions. So now we realize that we could build houses with the bridge-like arches, and that bridge is now very popular. So this is original, this bridge? Yes. It's an important relic from the ancient Tea Horse Road, also a county-level cultural heritage. The locals call this bridge 1,000-year bridge. It doesn't mean that it's never broken in the 1,000 years' time. Instead, it indicates that the locals will voluntarily try to restore and repair this bridge so that it could stand still forever. In history, this place is called Nali Township, and there were officials stationed here, and this bridge has a history with that story. You could see this door is in the shape of a vase, and vase in the Chinese pronunciation indicates safety. When the caravans walk on this bridge, the locals give their best wishes to the caravans, wish them safe journeys. And this is also the last station for the caravans. They arrive at Nali from Pu'er Mansion, and then the local officials will check the tea for taxation purposes as the last post for such a checkpoint. and then the caravans will move on for the trading. 70 households now reside in this township. They rely on their own skills and their houses and agricultural products yet to be sold. That's the corn pies, the beef meat, sausages. Those are very popular products for the visitors. This is his store as well as his living space. What is the favorite snack for the customers? The corn pie and the dried beef meat. Can I have a taste? Sure, be my guest. And also I would love the leaf to wrap it up. Is the corn produced by yourself? Yes, it's self-made and self-grown. It smells delicious. Sweet, very strong flavor of corns. And also, do you add some sticky rice into it? Actually, no. It's the sticky corn. What is the price? It's on me. On the two sides of the village, those were the ancient houses. Take this house as an example. This cottage used to be the shelters for cows. So people used to live next to the animals. But when people separate from the animals, Nali give a good example. They cleaned up and changed the cottages into the shopping stores. There are so many paintings hanging on the walls. Visitors enjoy those stores. They can buy the paintings because the paintings depict the beautiful sceneries in Nali. The second floor used to store the agricultural tools and the grains, but now with abundant material, the second floor is now empty. So they reform the second floor to be the stores or rent them out. Or they could be changed into small guest houses, so visitors can choose to live on the second floor when they come. This house is under remedy. It is intended to better present the Pu'er Tea to the visitors. The migrant workers might be coming back to Nali right now, right? Yes, they are now reforming their ancient houses. And look at this vegetable field. This is the downtown area of this village. After meeting the requirements of people's daily necessities, we leave some empty spaces in the farmland to grow vegetables or fruits so as to leave enough space for further development. And also with those farm fields, we want to give more to our descendants. And on the second floor, you could see some corridors and chairs. It's called the beauty chairs. That's actually a good name passed on from the ancestors. Previously, the daughters could not run away every day and they have to be kept in the house. But in the summertime, it's very hot, but they cannot go out, so they usually sit on the second floor on the chairs to do some embroidery work. When the caravans crossed by, they saw so many beautiful girls sitting above so they felt inclined to live in the guest house. This is another house called Gaolaozhuang. This is actually a workshop for tea making, and let's learn something about Pu'er tea. Are you making tea? Yes. Now we would love to learn more about the tea making procedure. Hello there, nice to meet you. Could you please introduce yourself? I am the 8th generation inheritor of Pu'er tea making. And what is the relationship between the tea as a tribute and the common Pu'er tea? The tributed tea usually is processed more delicately because, after all, it is meant to be submitted to the emperors. So the making and processing procedure is more demanding. Could you please introduce the procedure of making the tribute tea? In Shang Dynasty, about 3,000 years ago, the tribute tea was taken as a taxation, but in Kangshi's period, Yingjiang Mansion submitted Pu'er tea to the royal family as a tribute. According to the record, the treaters of Pu'er tea were mild and tributed the Pu'er tea to the emperors. In Qing Dynasty, that was the prime time of Pu'er tea, particularly during Yongzheng's period. Pu'er Mansion was built, and Pu'er Mansion was responsible for submitting the Pu'er tea to the royal family. There was such a workshop specially in charge of such tributes. And there are 5 different levels of the tributed tea according to the weights. Some are made of the bud tea. Some are the different forms of tea, like the tea creams. In 1987, my mother asked me to learn about making this. Basically, we are able to produce the 5-gene tea balls like this. This is packaged tea balls. There are logos in it. And there are some usual products. For example, the tea biscuits. This tea cake is highly promoted to the visitors. We call it 七子饼. The tea lovers know about this cake. So, what is the story behind the name? There are different arguments about the story. Together with the tea balls, this tea cake used to be very popular. To guarantee the balance point of the tea cake, it combines 7 liang of 7 different varieties of tea so that it would not be broken during the transportation. Welcome back. I am the reporter Yang Lijun. Now with me, that's the 8th generation inheritor of Pu'er tribute tea, Li Xingchang. Mr. Li is going to introduce the making process of the tribute tea. We just now introduced the history of Pu'er tribute tea. Now I'd love to introduce the procedure of the making. Although it's only about several parts, and there are usually 5 different steps. We firstly need to have a tribute ceremony to tribute to the tea god, and also then we have to go through the collection process, and then we have to kill out the tea, and then we will compress the tea and steam them. As you can see on the board, through the killing out, the rubbing, compressing, steaming, weighing, it was then packaged. Now let's have a vivid experience about the initial stages. And this is one of the most important stages, that is the killing out. This is newly collected tea. Killing out is actually to cook them in the hot pot. And for the tribute tea, usually they need to be composed of 2 leaves on 1 stem. Based on the maturity of the stem, we will take it out. If it's very young, you have to rub it very gently off. And that's my son, the 9th generation inheritor. The killing out is actually the process of cooking the tea in the pot. We call it shaqing in Chinese, and we have to perfectly control the temperature of the fire in the pot. And also there are several movements on your hands. With different water contents of the tea, you have to use different skills in the cooking process. Basically, by rubbing the stem out, you know the water content of different tea. Yes, and also you can judge by the look of the leaves. If the leaf is very soft, then it's very young leaf, and the water content is much higher. Now let's pour this out into the pot. So this is about the killing out of the Pu'er tribute tea. You just said there are different scales on your hands. So do you have a name for what you're doing right now? We just turn them. First, we keep turning the leaves so that they can have the balanced distribution of temperature on all of the tea. And sometimes we may throw them so as to control the water content. I can already smell the tea. In the making of the tribute tea, this killing out procedure is the most important one step to control the quality based on the pot temperature, the water contents, the speed that you roll the tea, and the height that you throw them in the air must be well controlled. So this is actually a very technical process. Yes, indeed. Even though the steps of making tribute Pu'er tea is the same as that of the usual Pu'er tea, there are some differences in the making. For example, based on the water contents of the tribute tea, and you have to readjust the speed you make them. It's just like cooking cabbages. It tastes differently from different hands. The procedure is almost the same, but different people cook it may produce different tastes. How long does it take? The killing out is about 20 minutes. Based on the water contents and the maturity of the leaves, it generally takes about 20 minutes on average. So now let's move to the other steps. So that's the already cooked tea. This is my student, Gao. Your students are all handsome boys. And he is now weighing the tea. 357 grams. Haipeng. Now you see 357 grams. So every one package must be weighed very accurately. Then we steam it soft, and then make some shape from it. And then we compress it. After compression, sometimes the weight may deviate from the standard. Now they are making the tea cake. Have to make it very balanced at different angles. So the tightness of the entire cake will be balanced as well. You must guarantee uniformity at different points of the cake in terms of the weight and the tea composition. This stone is for compression. It's about 40 to 50 jin. And this stone may not be enough for compression, so people stand on it. One, he is moving the stone. That's to ensure the uniformity of the thickness of the cake. Cloth bag has to wrap it up for it to dry for some other time. Those are already dried tea cake, so you can see it's very tight. It's already dried out. Even you can feel some moisture in it. To avoid it to go bad, you have to dry it completely like this. Sometimes we may have to heat it up so as to dry out the tea cake. Some visitors are drinking tea here, so can we have a taste of your Pu'er tea? Sure, be my guest. Today, we have invited Mr. Yan from the local Pu'er Research Institute and the local Reform and Development Commission leaders. Now, please take your seats. So, Mr. Yan, is there any requirement in making the tea? Of course. Our professional lady will introduce about how to enjoy the Pu'er tea. Madame Tang has a lot of skills. Just now he introduced a lot of history to us. Now, could you please tell us what's it that we need to pay attention to in drinking the tea? There are 4 words, 清净养和. When you are dipping the Pu'er tea, you have to clean your hands and have a calm mind. You have to be very familiar with all of those cups. And then you take proper amount of the tea. Sometimes we take 8 grams if you don't have such a scale. You take 1/3 of the cup of tea. And you have to pour the water into the tea very quickly. And your fingers cannot point at the visitors. All of those pots cannot point at the visitors as well. Now the tea temperature is about right. Please enjoy. So what do we need to know? When drinking the tea, is there any courtesy we need to keep in mind to show our respect to you when we are drinking? Mr. Yu, you are the professional. It's 2 different things for drinking tea and enjoying tea. Drinking tea is to kill your thirst, but now for enjoying tea, you have to smell the fragrance of the tea when holding it up, and then we look at the color and the transparency of the tea. Then you sip. The tea will take some time to overwhelm your entire mouth, and then the tea goes through your throat. So by doing this slowly, the fragrance will linger on your tongue. So you will know the aftertaste of the tea. I can feel the aftertaste of the tea right now. Madame Tang just now mentioned the best scenario is for the tea to be made about the same temperature of body temperature. It shouldn't be too hot. Otherwise, you don't feel good when it's in your mouth. If it's very hot, out of self-protection, you will do something, avoiding you from tasting it fully. So only at body temperature can you be able to fully open yourself to the taste of the tea. And the fragrance lingers on your tongue completely. So very quickly, you taste it. Mr. Yan, I think it is in recent years that Pu'er tea becomes more popular. Previously, Longjing tea used to dominate the market. So, from the angle of the history, could you introduce about the reasons? Pu'er has a long history, but it is in recent 20 years that people start to put their sight on Pu'er tea. Pu'er tea is becoming more popular. And this place is the source place of Pu'er tea and also the birthplace of the tea trees. Please allow me to introduce the tea industry. There are several keywords I'd love to draw your attention to. Firstly, the source. Pu'er City is the birthplace of the tea trees. In 2013, International Tea Committee assigns the name of World Tea Park to the city because in our place we have found the fossils. Those plant fossils were believed to be the ancestor of the Pu'er tea. They have about over 30 million years ago. As to tea trees, they have a history of 2,700 years. That's already the king of the Pu'er tea trees. So the tea trees evolve here in the city. And I have a question in mind. There are different names of Pu'er tea. How can the common people tell the difference? Does it mean that the ancient Pu'er tree tea represents the best quality? Actually, there is no strict classification. For the tea trees that are over 100 years old, the teas produced on the ancient trees are called gushu tea. And then we have another level for the tea produced in the trees of 50 years to 100 years. And usually in Yunan province, all the Pu'er tea are grown from the bush trees. And also we trim the trees. Of course, those bushes can grow very big, but we keep trimming them. For 大树茶, they grow on the trees of over 100 years. People used to believe that drinking Pu'er tea was a luxury. But now, has Pu'er tea been a household tea? So is it affordable to the general public? As Mr. Li said, Pu'er tea used to be the tribute tea to the royal family. It was pricey. But now, there are different levels. Gushu tea is pricey because it's rare. The quality is better, but it's not absolute. It is dependent upon the location. And there are some modern sources of tea. They're not very pricey, and people tend to believe that the tidy tea has a lot of insecticides, but now that's no problem. We have 670,000 mu of the tea parks, and they are organic. We have acquired accreditation from EU and the US, so please rest assured you can drink high-quality Pu'er tea. They're not pricey and they're organic. I feel strongly that Pu'er City is a very scenic place. It has a mild climate. It's not that humid as other places in southern China and not very dry in northern China. Is it conducive to the growth of Pu'er tea? Yes, of course. There is no hot summer or cold winter in Pu'er City because of the forest coverage of over 74% and the mild temperature here. The tea is growing in a favorable condition. So that's the natural condition for the Pu'er tea. Also, air quality is very high. And another question is to the other gentleman. What is your future plan? We are now practicing the instruction of General Secretary Xi Jinping, which is green is good. So with our ecological protection, we are aware that forest coverage is as high as 74.59%. As to air quality, every year the ratio of good air quality is above 300 days per year. So that creates a favorable condition for Pu'er Tea. Added by some artificial means, for example, the ecological reform and organic production, in the future, the quality of Pu'er Tea will be only better. I also heard that Pu'er is also home to the production of coffee beans, saying that half of the coffee beans in China are produced in Pu'er. Is that so? That's true. Now, the area of coffee plantation is 600,000 mu. In the future, in the 14th five-year plan period, coffee bean production area will reach as high as 800,000 mu. That's over half of the plantation area in China. In Yunan, the output of coffee beans is ranking number 1 nationwide. What about the coffee bean quality? It is fair to say that the quality of the coffee beans in Pu'er is very high. But I'm a layman of the coffee bean sector. Mr. Yan is professional. So, Mr. Yan, you could introduce more details about the coffee beans. So, Mr. Yan is an expert in not only Pu'er tea but also coffee beans. There is a coffee research institute. We belong to the same species of Lanshan coffee. Because of our natural condition, our coffee bean variety has very high quality. It is scored over 85, so that's high quality coffee beans. And we have a large production. It's ranking the same as the Blue Mountain coffee. But it's not made into a brand yet, so many people haven't heard about Yunan coffee beans. We need to promote it more. We look forward to drinking the Pu'er-produced coffee in Beijing. Now let's get on our feet. There are more interesting things to discover. That's the collections in the Palace Museum. Mr. Li wants to show you something. That's the real tribute tea, now stored in the Palace Museum. Welcome to have a glimpse in the museum. Thank you. Just now we learned how to make a tea. Now he is baking the tea. If you put salt, tea, and boiling water together, you could kill diarrhea. That's taken as a medicine for the caravans. So it's called tea baking. Usually if the caravans got sick and have no other medicines, they just bake the tea as a drug. Sometimes diarrhea was commonplace for the caravans. So Pu'er tea is an important daily necessity. Thank you. Walking on the ancient tea horse road, we just met the horses and the caravans. Even though caravans are not part of our lives anymore, horses remain with us. They are our close partners. The common people keep the horses to receive the visitors. Many locals come back to their hometown and give full play to their specialties. Some of them can cook, even the local specialties to generate revenues. This is a very interesting house. The first floor is for the living of the owners, and the second floor is changed into stores. They can rent it out to get revenues. They farm to generate revenues. So they have different sources of revenues. Of course, there are more such ancient villages like Nakeli, but Nakeli set a good example for the surroundings. People realize that once you can keep your home in a better way, you will enjoy a better future with higher revenues. This water flow is very interesting. Is it clean drinking water? There are many bridges, farmlands in Nakeli. We built so many bridges because we are home to abundant water flow, and every household has a requirement of the water. The flow comes from the mountain, and it crosses in front of the doorsteps of the houses. They could be used for washing hands. And all the households here treasure those water flows. They will not discharge the garbages into the water. So even after hundreds of years, this stream of water is still very clean. Voluntarily, the locals protect the water. So many snacks sold here. This is their own houses, and all their family members take this store as their workplace. They do barbecue. It's a very vivid experience. So since we're meandering through the town, sometimes you get hungry, so you need the snacks. Just now, our reporter has enjoyed the Pu'er Tea. According to the introduction of Mr. Yan, Pu'er Tea is not for elites only. Now there are two concepts. One is gushu pu'er, one is organic pu'er. For the common people, they can buy some organic pu'er. It's green product. And also, if you have higher pursuit of Pu'er Tea, you can drink some minority gushu pu'er that is produced from the ancient trees. I'm very interested in the rooftop. Are they original? Yes. In Nakeli, those architecture was kept in a consistent style. It seems quite like the architecture in southern China with the flying rooftops. But if you walk in the front of the houses, they look like the bamboo buildings of the Dai ethnicity. But the entire structure is the Han style, so it's a mixture of different architecture styles. We want to exhibit the combination of the minority ethnic culture and the caravan culture. Some architecture culture was imported from elsewhere, so Nakeli is a place of a mixture of culture from different localities. Gradually, this mixture of culture evolved into its unique flavor. This is the shopping street. The locals sell their agricultural products in this street. You could see the yams and the dried fruits and some specialties in Han ethnicity called ciba. I know peanuts are unique here. They are black in color. That's because it's rich in the ingredient of anthocyanin. It is anti-cancer component. Those are all owned by the locals. Look around. On our way, they don't set doors to their courtyard. It's wide open. But of course, as to their bedrooms, they have smaller doors. Because usually in the past, caravans need to enter into the houses frequently, so they just dismantled the courtyard doors just to allow the horses and the caravans to enter in. Now, people feel a sense of safety living here, so they are willing to open their outdoors to the visitors. It's Saturday. There are quite a lot of visitors here. Nali is located in the center of Pu'er City and Ning'er. So usually the caravans walk 15 to 20 kilometers per day, and the one-day tour is also within a distance of 20 kilometers. Nali is becoming the main tourist spot for the surroundings. What's the story about this Tatum? This is a local milestone. There are many villages along the ancient tea horse road, but not every road is open to the outsiders. Some are only open to the locals. If this road is open to the outsiders, they will plug in a colored flag on it. If the caravans saw the colored flag in the village, then they know that they are welcoming the outsiders and they can have supplements from that village. Now we don't plug in the colored flag yet. Instead, we put the ringing bells, the sandals, and others to represent the welcoming spirit. So just now we experienced the Pu'er Tea culture, the ancient tea horse road, and also the costumes of local ethnicity. So this place is home to the tea culture, the tea horse road culture, and there is another name card for this village. It's called the wood engraving. So I will take you to experience the wood engraving. It's an artistic expression. It's an art on the tip of a knife and your pen. It's the out-of-print wood engravings. This is Professor Xu. He will be the guest for the introduction. Hello there. Whenever we see the word of out of print, it's getting more mysterious, Madame Xu. So why is it called out of print wood engravings? For the out of print, wood engraving is one category of the wood engraving. It's also called the simple edition of wood cut. It's born in 1980s in Pu'er. Some young painters extended the woodcut from traditional wood engravings to make it out of print wood engraving. So the artist engraves some portion and then print it in colors. And for the already engraved ones, they keep the previous color before printing the other portions of this painting. So you could see the final version is different from the previous versions. And that's why we call it out of print. Because, for example, in the beginning it may be yellow and gradually it turned into blue. But for the previous yellow colored portions, they will be cut out to only leave behind the blue colors. So if there are 30 different papers for the different steps, then there will be 30 different paintings. Many collectors and artists love those out-of-print woodcuts. Is it a traditional art? In the 1980s, some local artists represented by Zheng carried from the traditional wood gravings and developed it into a new scale. It changed the traditional wood gravings because previously there might be 10 colors in one painting. Then they require 10 different wood. But now for the out of print, we do it in one only wood. We just cut the other previous colors out of the wood. Is this becoming a common memory for the locals? With the help of the government, we are now working with many local farmers. We are teaching the farmers to learn the skills so they can start their own businesses with this technique. The visitors can also come and buy their works, and they can experience wood engravings by themselves. Thank you for your introduction. Now let's visit the next Fengyu Bridge, because it's almost noontime. So our next stop is to taste the caravan food. The out-of-print wood engravings are classy. With the municipal people's government support, the out-of-print wood engravings are settling down here with some training centers. We trained 100 local farmers, including the people from Lahu ethnic group. With 1 month of training, they learned the skill. In 1 week's time, one person can accomplish one woodcut, but there may be 30 different paintings from it. It's sold at about 300 RMB yuan. So by that calculation, what's the revenue for 1 week? Our training center can sell on their behalf. They can also entrust the local tea houses or the guest houses to sell those paintings. So learning this technique will help them to have one more revenue source. Now we are in Nakeli Township's most beautiful scenic spot. We can see the bridge, the water. This must be the spot for photo taking. You can hear the sound of the water flow. You can small talk with your friends. There was a question from you just now. We are unfamiliar with tea before, but now since we are in Pu'er, what type of tea shall we drink? Here I want to confer some knowledge. Tea production and the cooked tea are different. The raw tea is mind refreshing, and for the cooked tea, it's good for your stomach. Usually we drink cooked tea in the morning and raw tea at the noontime. So we have better capability of antioxidant. Those two water wheels are very interesting. Water wheels in many places are the same size, but those two differ in sizes. They're called the parent-child water wheels. The bigger one is like a mother. With those parent-child water wheels, the water is diverted to irrigate the tea. So are those water wheels here like always? There used to be such water wheels in Nagli, but for safety concerns, we fixed the previous existent water wheels. They are made of wood, but we cement the bearings with iron and steel. The rolling water wheels are also name card of Nagli, attracting the visitors. People are curious, what is that place? Why are there the water wheels? We can also see a hanging bridge. Is that walkable? Of course. Previously, the caravans had rough conditions. They walk on the bamboo-made bridges. They are dangerous, and also the bamboo bridges have to be cemented. But now with better infrastructure, we put the saddles upside down to be on the bridge. It's a very interesting walk.
中老铁路通车以后啊，应该说结束了普洱不通铁路的历史，实现了我们240万各族人民期盼多年的一个愿望，可以说是普洱交通发展历史上的一个具有里程碑意义的大事件。因为大家都知道，普洱呢是一个沿边的州市，我们的边境线有486公里长，那这一个条铁路通之后，再加原来我们已经有的昆曼大通道，现在就为普洱的对外开放以及我们未来的发展，又新增了一条致富路，可以这么说，就是为我们利用国内、国际两个市场、两种资源，提供了更便利、更优越的条件。就举个例吧，我们的旅游业，你看这条铁路通车之后，我们 们以版纳和老挝等东南亚国家的距离就缩短了，联系会更加紧密了。本来老挝等东南亚国家旅游资源是相对是比较丰富的，版纳呢，它是一个旅游的热土，那就为我们未来发展旅游业就联动发展创造了一个比较好的条件。那普洱市呢，我们在未来我们就想以生态旅游为重点，就是着重做生态勘验、生态体验。就像我们今天看到的拿克里小镇，实际上我们不搞大破坏，不搞大开发，保持原生态的，来继续的把这个我们的乡村的风貌，把我们乡村的一些文化、民族文化，把它展现出来、体现出来，这样来做，就是这样我们一个体验式来感受这个我们的风土人情，感受我们的民族文化，是这样。就是我们未来就是以生态康养、生态体验为重点，大力分散发展生态。对。差不多，因为普洱一年四季如春，就像联合国教科文组织说的，我们国家的春城是在昆明。就我们说的南方是普洱是南方丝绸之路和茶马古道的起源地，你看这个昆曼大通道一通，然后给我们带来是什么利好？最直接的就是我们物流成本的降低，运输成本的降低，运输成本的降低。然后我们老百姓出行呢，包括货运可以选择的方式就更多元化了。那这个为未来我们发展是提供了一个基础必备的条件，然后我们现在呢，就是准备抓住这个机遇，以临洱这个叫中老铁路临洱站的这一个货运功能为基础，依托它，我们加快建设粮食，我们的成品油，还有的热带水果。以及这个林板家基为重点的丝毛产业园区、临洱片区，配套建设保税物流中心，完善这个我们的冷链物流、检验检疫等相关设施，打造集仓储、加工、物流为一体的一个基地。
In our logistics space and warehousing base so that our general trade is reformed into processed trade. Speaking of that, we are now entering into such a restaurant for the caravans. China-Laos Railway is a railway of openness. It's also a railway of industrial development. It may give birth to a lot of added value. It's hustling and bustling here. So what are you making? This is the Caravan tofu. It's a pickle food. I wrap it with vegetables. Now I am putting the other seasonings on it, and then I will wrap it with the vegetables, and then put the tofu in the pot for pickling. and you can only eat it after half a year. On the plate it says you have 100 years of history of making caravan food. Yes, we're the fifth generation. Could you introduce the features of the caravan food? One big feature is they're portable. They can last long, and also they take food from the local place. That's one advantage of caravan food. And what is this? We're boiling the staple food for caravans. It was a tough journey for the caravans, so this pot is easy to carry. For the caravan dishes, one pot can make the meal for one entire table. It can boil the rice, and the rice is poured out. We can continue to use this pot to cook other vegetables. I know that for the caravan leader, they are called Ma Guo Tou. So is that Ma Guo the same as this pot? Yes, it is correlated. We take the same pronunciation, basically meaning the same thing. While using this one pot, one. They will not turn bad on the journeys because we've already put some salt to preserve them. Thank you for your time. And now let's taste some of the food. This yard is beautiful. Is this camellia? When northern China has no flowers, we can see such beautiful flowers blossoming here. It's a very beautiful yard. And having lunch in such a beautiful yard is quite an experience. It's very comfortable here. There are raw pu'er tea and cooked tea. I will go and check how much time do we have to wait for the dishes. If it takes too long, I think that will be it.
那个张老师，海鹏老师，你来看看，他正好正在炒制这个，很有意思。对，正好我们可以现场的来看一下这个马帮菜的这个制作过程。一口锅，刚才的饭已经盛出来了，
The
现
rice
在是炒腊
was
肉，
poured out.
就是一
Now
口锅
they
做一桌
are
菜。
cooking the preserved meat. So one pot can be used for making many dishes.
这个是已经烤好的，刚才那个手撕牛肉。
That's already baked
我
beef.
先来品尝。
Allow me to taste one.
有点那个熏肉的感觉。
It tastes quite like preserved meat.
外焦里嫩。
It's crispy on the outside and very fresh on the
对，
inside.
不会说嚼不动的那种，
It's easy to chew
而且越嚼越香。
and it tastes delicious when you chew on it.
如果喜欢吃辣椒的，还可以
If you favor
蘸一些
spicy
干辣
food,
椒吃。
you can also dip it in the dry
它本
spices.
身并没有特别多的
It's
辣
not
的那个
very
味道。
spicy. You don't use the stove. Why is that? Because that's the original cooking ways for the caravan dishes. So you carry on the tradition. For 100 years, our ancestors made the food for the caravans. This pot was from 100 years ago.
烫不烫？
Impressive. Is it hot?
如果不烫，我想举起来给大家看一下，就是这口。
I do want to hold it up for a closer look.
啊，可以了。来，这是已经有
This pot is 100 years old.
老锅。
Now we are about to cook a local fish with a red tail. and the pebbles are taken directly from the river. In bad weather days, we may not be able to get so many fish for the caravan. So we take some pebbles from the river and cook it together with the fish. And then the stone will smell like the fish, and it's very fragrant. So in very poor and tough conditions, if we eat in the outdoors, those stones can be used to keep the temperature of the dishes. So it's not gonna go very cold. So caravans have to take what they have wherever they go, like the fish in the surrounding river. All their tablewares are put on the green leaves. That's very interesting. That's soup. That's actually the soybean milk, because they make tofu. That's soybean milk, and that's tofu pudding. Those are the three sisters for the caravan food. The preserved meat, gamba, and tofu sausage. Those three are the three sister food for the caravans. This is the sausage. Yes. Do you have to bake the sausages? It's already done. So that's the original caravan food. This is one of the three sister food. All the three sisters are tofu food, while the three brother food are meat. The three brothers' dishes are made of meat so as to make them strong, and the three sisters represent flexibility. And just like tofu, they're very soft. So there are three brothers and three sisters on the table for caravans. Three sisters are made of tofu and soybeans, and the three brothers are made of beef, dried beef, preserved meat, and the baked sausages.
道的马帮菜马上就要。三兄弟摆在一起。
Three brothers are put together. That's the same with the three sisters.
那这个鱼汤算什么呢？
What about the fish soup?
马帮菜它就是沿着一条长马古道，它就有这个鱼，所以来到我们那克里就是有了这个特色的
Because this fish is a local specialty. And it opens your appetite. It's sweet and sour at the same time. That's the residues of tofu. So that's all for the lunch. We also have the rice, the staple food. Just put it on the side and let's take a group photo of all the dishes. It's red rice.
这个就是我们当地的红米，对，当地的红米。
It's the local red rice.
这个是我们当地的，当地产的红米。
走到哪里吃到哪里。看那边还有。
So take what nature gives.
马帮留下的老物件，这些是，对，马帮的，
And those tablewares are actually left behind by the caravans. They have years of history. We keep them.
太好了，好。
Wonderful.
这是以前留下来的老物件。
And those saddles also came from the caravans.
马鞍，对。
The saddles used to be set on the horsebacks. And the grinding stone. So today we experienced the ancient tea horse road, the making process of Pu'er tea, and finally the caravan food. Since those are freshly made dishes, I can only taste some of them because some food are still very hot. For example, the dried beef. This is one of the three brothers. It's chewy. So I will not drag on. Those dishes are already presented here. Welcome to Nakali to have a first-hand experience of caravan food. Get to know more about the ancient tea horse culture. This is the end of today's show. See you next time.